You know, I'm right. Nick Durst here with Joe Calabrese. And Joe, what an episode we have for our fans today. I don't want to overhype it because maybe it'll drop the ball or something, but we have some good guests. We have somebody entering the elite two-time guest club and somebody entering the exclusive three-time guest club.
Our first three-time guest. And yes, you're right. We've had a couple of people on who have only been on with us twice, but we are loading up here when it comes to wrestling. We recently released our Dave Meltzer episode, which was really, really fun to listen to him. But now we get to preview one of the big four pay-per-views and one of the best nights of the year that we will certainly be enjoying on Sunday. We are very excited to have them both on, and it's kind of a reunion of sorts. So we're getting the band back together. Mr. Jimmy Korderas and Mr. Arda Öcal, welcome back to the show, the both of you. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well as still stuck up here in Canada doing our anti-social distancing and our part to not contract anything, but we are fully Pfizerized, so we're good, supposedly, fingers crossed. But yeah, I'm just excited to get back on with you guys. And that guy that's below me on the screen there, it's been a while, so it's good to reconnect.
Haven't seen you in a hot minute, Jimbo. Who's part of Nick and Joe? Who's part of the two guest club or two appearance club?
Tim Kirkshin, okay. Adnan Burke, and you. And now Jimmy's in the three guest club.
Okay, so now at 5, do we get Blazers like Saturday Night Live, or
everybody's gonna get this official I'm right sweatshirt?
Okay.
Since we're doing the cheap plugs,
ProWrestlingTees.com.
There you go,
Jimmy Korderas.
All right.
Yeah, I learned some stuff from Mick Foley. Anyways, get your gratuitous plugs in there.
I know Jimmy, I think nobody's doing the merch plugs better these days than Matt Cardona, formerly known as Zack Ryder. And it would seem like, this guy might be the wrestler of the year next time PWI releases a magazine. I mean, top the guy in the indies right now.
Well, if you ask him, that's definitely the choice.
Yeah. No doubt about it.
All wrestlers, isn't it? All wrestlers are conditioned to put themselves over. So, and he was a guy who, even in WWE, he took a lot of risks. I remember, like many, many years ago, he was the first to really launch a YouTube channel, right? Or a YouTube show. And it was very successful. And honestly, I would guess, knowing what I know now, and Jimmy, you having worked there for a quarter of a century, if that wasn't successful, he probably would have been a lot worse for wear. Like it would have been a lot worse for him if it didn't get over. But because it did get over, they turned it into something. You know what I mean? Like he probably would have had a more severe slap on the wrist if it was just something he did on the side that didn't catch fire. But it did, and it was great for him. But unfortunately, it didn't capitalize into much in WWE. But the creative juices were still there for him to do something after the fact.
Exactly, and it gave the WWE some food for thought and ideas that they could kind of use with other talents as well.
Well, Zack Ryder, I remember Joe and I were at Survivor Series at MSG, The Rock and John Cena teaming up to take on the Awesome Truth, our Truth and the Miz, and everyone's chanting, "We want Ryder" the whole time The Rock's trying to speak. So it worked off. But recently you mentioned that looks like Xavier Woods and the crew going on strike with their YouTube show. A little issues there with the contracts because of the gaming channel. Arda, what do you think about that? You're the gamer guy here.
I don't know the story. I'll be honest. I don't keep tabs on wrestling as much as I used to. So catch me up on what's happening. Yeah.
So essentially, he's got this UpUpDownDown YouTube channel, which is owned by WWE, where him and other wrestlers will come in and play video games.
Yes.
It has 2.6 million subscribers, and apparently there's some issues contractually where
like actual issues, like not storyline issues.
Xavier Woods is he's not being compensated for his YouTube channel.
Okay.
And his fellow wrestlers have banded together and said, "We're not coming on the show until you actually get a cut of this.
I think that's fair because, I mean, he's been the face of it since the beginning.
Right.
Fun fact, I was part of the original cast of Up, Up, Down, Down. I did a show called The Retro Stream way back in 2015 when Up, Up, Down, Down launched, which was awesome. It was a lot of fun. And also, I'll put myself over here, Jimmy, as you know that I am known to do. I actually got the Up, Up, Down, Down Twitter account verified on Twitter. I made the ask, I pulled some strings, and I got them their little blue check mark. Not to say they wouldn't have gotten it eventually on their own. They definitely would have. But since I got in there and gave them, that was my parting gift, actually, to Up, Up, Down, Down. When I left WWE, I got the account verified. Which
That's
was
awesome.
Like my goodbye to WWE was getting Up, Up, Down, Down verified on Twitter.
That's awesome because I always heard that Kyle Edwards guy taking credit for it, but you know, it's nice. It's nice to know who actually did it.
That Kyle is such a jobber, man. So in answer to your question though, Nick, of course he deserves to be compensated.
Right.
I mean, he's also a host for G4 and he's being compensated for it. It's not like he's doing that work for free. And actually, Brian Terwilliger, who used to, I believe he headed up, Up, Down, Down at WWE, but he was definitely at the vice president level, is now one of the executive producers at G4 with Comcast Spectacor. So there's a lot of history there and a lot of very familiar faces.
The whole dispute is like something about the money from the YouTube is going towards his downside guarantee. I mean, Jimmy, you could speak better to that about the contracts there, but it's very, very cloudy there. But,
that's not paying him for that work. That is basically using a loophole, right? Like if that's the case, then no. Austin absolutely deserves to be paid on top of his, like, it's almost like two tracks.
Exactly.
There's his wrestling income and there's his video game income. Now, me as an observer, having what you just told me here, if that is not happening, if he's doing extra work for Up, Up, Down, Down. Now, I will also tell you that it's not just WWE, but there's many, many places that you're paid an amount and you're asked to do many, many things, right? But I'm going to venture to guess that Xavier Woods and other WWE wrestlers are not full-time employees. They're independent contractors still. I'm going to guess that that's the case. And if that is the case, then the contract should be stipulating that they are compensated for each silo of work, right? And also Austin, he's a pioneer in this situation, right? Like there aren't many superstars that are doing what he's doing, and that channel is very successful. So I don't blame him for going on strike if that's the case.
Yeah, and I think the good thing, Joe, is that at least there's no heat on him for this because he is the king of the ring. Although we did see, looks like Roman Reigns is the king of the ring now.
Right, and I want to mention our guys from the New Day, and Arda, I want to specifically talk to you about this because we saw Big E's now the WWE champion. I'm sure you at least are aware of that fact. So Big E and the Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch were at a Brooklyn Nets game last night against the Golden State Warriors as of the time of this recording. And Nick and I know this better than everybody else in here, right? Nobody in New York cares about the Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, no one.
They only care about the New York Knicks. I think Big E and Becky Lynch missed a golden opportunity because they missed the opportunity to watch, and Nick and I, you're going to love this, our New York Rangers. I mean, how do you not go to the Garden, the Canadians, original six matchup? Rangers have won 4 in a row. All right, I need to ask, how do you like our Rangers right now?
I think the Rangers are looking on paper before the season. I picked them to be a playoff team. I will tell you that. I will also say, no big deal, cheap plug. I hosted SportsCenter yesterday, and the Warriors and Nets game led SportsCenter. So as much as you two don't like the Nets, a lot of people in America like Kevin Durant. And
everybody
James
likes
Harden.
the Warriors.
Yes, the Warriors are also the best team in the NBA, but the Nets are also among the best teams in the
That's why we got to chime into you on ESPN Plus for exclusive hockey talk.
Exactly. The Rangers are looking good. I think they need to have good seasons from Alexis Lafreniere and Capo Caco if they make the playoffs, especially Igor Shesterkin. I've heard Vezina talk with him, especially before the season. He looks great. I think he's going to be a big key to the Rangers' success. And I could talk hockey for hours and hours, but unless we're talking about the Leafs, which means we got to get Jimmy in here on his hot Leaf takes.
When are
Well,
they
that's the next game.
What can you say about the Leafs? As probably, and I would venture to guess that I'm the only person in this room right here that was still alive the last time the Leafs won the Stanley Cup. I've got my fingers crossed, but I have. I don't feel it this year. The inconsistency is my issue. Like, look, last night against at the time of this recording against Nashville, a good big 3-0 win. They look good at both ends of the ice. Campbell with his third shutout in 14 games, not bad looking at net, but he's inconsistent as well. Everything seems to be inconsistent with the Leafs, and that's my concern here.
One of these years, you would just think they're gonna pull a Capitals and no one thinks they're going to win it and they'll just go on the run and win it. I mean, Matthews and Tavares, you're not going to find a better 1-2 punch than that.
No, that's
McDavid and Draisaitl might say otherwise. They are like unbelievable. What is McDavid's on like a 50? This was hilarious. So like, I love how the hockey world is like, it's like, oh my gosh, Connor McDavid is on a 15-game point streak to start the season. This is incredible. By the way, shout out to Troy Terry and the Anaheim Ducks, who also is going on a game streak right now, but like a point game streak. But like, then they show the graphic, right? Like of all the records, and it's like Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid. It's like Wayne Gretzky's at like 54 or something, and we're like, oh man, Connor can do it. We're like, he's not even like a third of the way there yet. It's unbelievable.
Speaking of Gretzky, quickly, I wanted to ask about Ovechkin because, I mean, he probably should have at least 40 to 50 more goals right now because of all the time lost over the years between the lockouts and the holdouts and everything. Do you think he's going to break it? Because I feel like he's going to be like Jágr, where he does play into his 40s. And if that's the case, then he's going to do it.
Yes. The short answer for me is yes, he does break it. And that's going to be one of the biggest celebrations or like momentous occasions in hockey of our time, because that's a record we previously thought would be unbroken, and he is well on track. And honestly, the way he's scoring this season, it's almost like he doesn't want to wait. He just wants to get it done. He just wants to get it
over with.
Yeah.
Arda, one more quick point about the ESPN Plus show. I still work for .com, and I've been able to catch it a couple of times in the games that I've done on ESPN Plus. How much fun do you have doing it right now? Because it seems like ESPN is holding their end of the bargain right now with the new TV deal and with Turner. Showing a lot more hockey, right up your alley, giving you a lot more opportunities just to do stuff. I think you've been doing a great job so far. So how are you enjoying doing that?
Well, first of all, thank you specifically, Joe, for supporting. Nick, where's the support pal? Honestly, I'm
I can't afford ESPN Plus.
Very disappointed. Really quick, it's been amazing. Dream come true. I mean, I grew up loving hockey and pro wrestling are my two big loves growing up. So to be able to be part of the NHL coverage and doing, national exclusive games and hosting them on the desk with people like John Tortorella and Barry Melrose and Ryan Callahan, Rick DiPietro. Like, we have an amazing crew of people that I work with on and off the camera. So it's been an absolute thrill, and I can't wait to keep going. It's amazing. Like, my next games are Friday. The game we have on Friday is the Kraken and Avalanche. So I just love the idea that I'm able to work in hockey, and it's an absolute blast.
And since the last time we spoke to you, hosting a ton of Sports Center now, you mentioned it earlier. How's that experience been like for you? And who have you enjoyed working with the most?
Well, I'm glad I'm away from Jimmy. That's the big thing. I'm glad that I finally left Jimmy, and it was rough carrying him all those years on Aftermath, like it was tough. My back still hurts, Jimmy. Like I need pain medication. Aleve is my best friend.
Well, hold on. I would answer that, but I got to get all this dirt off me right now. That's been shoveled on top. My goodness. You talk about getting buried. Here's the thing, though. Me coming into a world where I actually have to speak and I'm supposed to be heard. my job as a referee for all those years was to be invisible until I needed to be visible. And then when you join the world of broadcasting or being an analyst, whatever the case may, whatever you want to call it, now you're counted on being heard and your opinion being heard. So now, now you're at the forefront as opposed to being the background player. You're KC now instead of the Sunshine Band.
Yeah, right. A good way. Good way.
So I needed a little time to transition to that, and I will give Arda a little bit of credit for carrying me the little way. But then I saved his butt by actually, joining his program there, and
and then the ratings just skyrocketed, Jimmy. The second you came on, boom, straight to the moon, man. 10 years. Can you believe that show, Aftermath, lasted for a decade? Like, what? There aren't many TV shows that actually reach 10 years of being on the air. Like, it's kind of surreal to think. And like, Jimmy is the longest tenured cast member. Like, you came pretty early, and you were there for, I don't know, how many years was it? Like 8 years, 9 years? Like, amazing.
Yeah. When it was right after wrestling to begin with, from those days. And then, when it transitioned from the Score here in Canada to Rogers Sportsnet, we made the move there too as well. So that was cool. When they say when you love what you're doing, it's not considered work. I just loved it. Like you said, Arda, I grew up as a hockey fan and a wrestling fan. Here in Canada, Saturdays were just heaven if you loved both. Obviously Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday nights. And for those of you who lived in the Toronto area, knew that right afterwards on Saturday nights, we would get All-Star Wrestling from Vancouver on our CTV affiliate from Kitchener, Ontario, Channel 13 in Kitchener. And before Hockey Night in Canada started, because at that time it started at 8 o'clock, at 7 p.m., we had Maple Leaf Wrestling on Channel 11 up here, which is, man. And then I got to, even after leaving WWE, I got to continue the dream to talk about wrestling and continue to watch something I loved. It was awesome. Does it get any better than that?
No, I don't think so.
And the best part about it was I didn't have to spend 5 days or more on the road a week and get to see my wife a day and a half. But
that helps. Not being on the road helps a lot.
It doesn't help her because then she had to put up with me for 7 days a week.
Yeah.
But, you'd have to talk to her about what a struggle that was to get used to.
Yeah, I think it's great that you're able to continue on, and both of you individually told the story to us, but how did this show idea come about? And what was it like when you two first met and started working together? Was it instant chemistry, or you're like, we'll see how this plays out?
No, we got along pretty well. We're both fat kids at heart, so we would just go to like slum diners and eat copious amounts of feta cheese and French fries, and we would just talk wrestling for hours and hours and hours and never get tired of it. So that's how we,
my goodness.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we became friends super fast. It was like really soon after you left WWE, Jimmy, right? Like I think we met at an indie show, and we just started doing Ask the Ref on the radio. And right after, I mean, we've told the story before, but like right after wrestling started, from just right place, right time, we got an email from the VP of programming saying we're looking for ideas. And I filled out the one-page form saying we need a post-game show for wrestling, like how every sport has one. And then I got called into his office and we talked about it, and that became the first episode of Right After Wrestling. And I remember on that show, I was on camera from the second show on. My role in the first show was I was in the control room for this weird. It was almost like Twitter before Twitter. It was like people paid a quarter or 50 cents and they could get a text message on screen. It was like a scrolling text thing. Yeah. And so I actually handled that for like the first 6 months. So like the first 6 months of the show, starting from episode 2, I was sitting off to the corner on the show set with a laptop. And so I was just like approving the messages that would scroll on the screen. which was hilarious. It was almost like, here are your tweets from the show, or like a lower third kind of thing. And so then we just finally got rid of it, and I ended up becoming like in part of the main, like sit at the big table, so to speak. But that's how the show started. And then the whole, obviously, right after Wrestling and Aftermath thing, where WWE was watching every show, and obviously we were coming. One of the reasons, obviously, this is not a secret, but one of the big reasons the show succeeded was because we were coming out of the Raw replay and SmackDown. Like, we already had a built-in audience of wrestling fans that would probably stick around and listen at least for 5-10 minutes, probably the whole show, to opinions of wrestling people, right? Like, if you say, okay, well, there's a referee that was there for 25 years and he's now giving his opinion on what we just saw, people are going to stick around because they want to hear what people have to say, because they love wrestling, right? So, yeah, I mean, to me, that was the secret sauce for the show and why it lasted for so long. But also, it was the chemistry of the cast. I mean, me and Jimmy get along great, and Renee was fantastic. And
where would Renee be without the two of you?
I mean, where would we all be? Where would
exactly?
We all be? I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. I think one of the biggest things is you could tell right off the bat that, and I hate to put him over this well, but you could see that Arda and I had that friendship and that chemistry off screen as well as on screen. I think it translated. I think the people understood it and felt it.
I would like to take credit for. The first person to give credit to is Jimmy's wife, Audra. But immediately after that, I'm taking credit for Jimmy writing his first book.
Yes.
I'm taking full credit.
There it is.
Other than the majority of the credit that Audra deserves, I am now finally on record taking credit, because for like a 6-month or year stretch before... that's the book right there. After and before the radio show, when we were doing it together, we would go to dinner. It would either be like Shoeless Joe's or a Greek diner or Wayne Gretzky's or some restaurant close to the Score. And I would say, all right, I'd basically be his, like, I wouldn't even call it a ghostwriter, because Jimmy wrote the whole book himself. It was almost like a story consultant. That's the title that I've earned. So we would just basically jot down all of his stories. And that's where we learned about Pumpkinhead and, having to do his business in the woods and
getting chased out by a farmer and
just getting chased by a farmer. And Pumpkinhead was like the head of merch for a long time at WWE. And his road stories with Chimmel and going to Saddam Hussein's compound in Iraq and
not only his compound, his palace, his actual palace. We stayed in one of his palaces when we went to do the tribute to the troops there, which was one of the coolest things ever. I mean, like, oh man. And it's true. Arda was there. He was taking notes, but he was sly in the way he would do it. He would bring up a subject and kind of like almost instigate the story. And sometimes I have trouble recollecting these stories, but once it's there, now it came back to me, and he would kind of jot it down and say, this needs to be in a book. And then, he contacted Audra, my wife, and just said, you know what, you got to push Jimmy to write that book.
Yeah.
And, she did her job.
We found them a publisher, and the rest is history. You know how they say, one too many chair shots to the head. In Jimmy's case, it's just one too many near falls, and he just forgot all of his stories.
Too many ref bumps. One too many ref bumps.
I mean, it would have been dangerous if Jimmy was doing Young Bucks matches, near fall after near fall after near fall.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a shoulder left. But,
he broke it.
Jimmy would, so just to rib Jimmy, they would start the match with like 80 near falls, like just to mess with him. Like it'd be all right, fireman's carry, hook the leg, 1, 2. As soon as Jimmy gets to his feet, another pinfall. Like it would just be a sequence of pinfalls, and Jimmy would like look at them like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah, that's why I would have to pull the old Bronco Lubitsch and just have enough and just say, you know what, if you guys are going to do this, I'm counting with my foot.
Yeah. Just like with the foot, 1, 2 with the foot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not up and down for like 80 times. No thanks.
Jimmy, does any referees kind of get you annoyed these days when you're watching? It seems like
I'm just gonna sip my coffee here.
Almost, we have people outside the ring, and the referees are not counting to 10. I don't understand. It drives me crazy.
You just lit a match. Let me just put dump a little fuel on the fire. Look, and this is an issue that happens more in one company than others. But and a lot of the blame I do put on the referees, but you have to put some of the blame on the boys as well, or the girls as well, because they're the ones that are burying the referees as well. Yeah. I get the referee's supposed to help and stuff like that, but if that happened in WWE back in the day, oh my goodness, what would happen when you come back to Gorilla? There'd be an older gentleman there who'd take his headset off, stand up, and give you that "come here" finger, and oh boy, would you hear it! I remember one time, I know off topic here, I was doing an 8-man tag match. This is how long ago it was. It was like the Killer Bees and somebody with. Anyways, I lost total control. They buried the living you know what out of me throughout this match. It was on TV, and match finally ended, and I get back to, and I'm afraid to go through Gorilla. I'm thinking, do I go side? You know what I mean? Arda, the side.
Mm-hmm. Right, just leave, almost have a path outside. Yeah. So I figured, no, I got to go through Gorilla. I get up to Gorilla, and he calls me over, and he says, and he just laid into me, and he just, we can't use that footage. That's horrible. You let them bury you out there, and this whole, blah, blah, blah. But I will give him credit. Later on, after the show, when I was in the locker room, and he walked by, and he saw me in there, and he came over, and he said, listen, he didn't apologize, but he said, I didn't mean to tear into you so badly, but you understand what I'm trying to tell you here. I'm only telling you because I want you to get better. I want you to learn, blah, blah, blah. He's going on. And then he says, listen, if I didn't want you here, you wouldn't be here. I want you here. I want you to get better. I want you to, and stuff like that. So yeah, from that side. But back to your original question that I just veered off from. One of the biggest problems I'm having with some referees today is, as I mentioned earlier, the referee's job is to help the talent tell their story in the ring without being a distraction. You're invisible until you need to be visible to help them tell their story. A lot of referees I notice today are trying to be part of the story, trying to be characters, trying to get their what in, as opposed to, like I mentioned, KC, you're supposed to be the Sunshine Band. You're helping the main attraction tell their story. They're trying to be visible. When two guys or two gals are facing off in the center of the ring, nose to nose, do you want some guy's face in the middle going, oh my goodness, look at this? No, let that be the story. You're not supposed to be in the middle telling that story. And getting back to your point about outside, there was a match at the pay-per-view recently at Full Gear where the guys were fighting outside. They were out there for like 30 seconds, a minute, whatever the heck it was. Later on in the same match, they do a spot where they're teasing a count out. Where was this? Like, 5 minutes ago in the match when they were out there for half an hour. It's inconsistent. It doesn't make sense. And it drives me crazy. And I know people are saying, oh, well, the fans don't care and stuff like that. It's part of the package. I mean, it's part of, no, this is new school. No, it's not new school. It's lazy. It's lazy structuring of a match. There was, you look at guys like Brian Danielson. See, I can still do it like everybody else. I make Brian Danielson and CM Punk and stuff like that. They know enough that when they go outside, okay, all I have to do is roll in the ring and roll back out. Guess what? Resets the count. How hard is that?
Yeah. I know.
It drives me insane.
It's got to drive you insane too when, the referees are losing account of who's the legal man in the match, and then the legal man is getting the pinfall victory.
Yeah, no, and when it gets to a point where there's so much in and out, where the viewer actually loses track of who's the legal man in the ring, again, it just drives me insane sometimes.
There's you just reminded me of a story so similar to that, like from your experience, Jimmy. I remember there was one match like that. This was a Vince thing, but it actually worked out well for you because you actually ended up doing the right thing, even though it seemed unorthodox at the time. I think it was like a tag match where the pinfall, the shoulders were happening like really close to the ropes, and you had to slide outside to make the count. Yes. So like you weren't in the ring, you left the ring, you turned around back towards the ring, and you actually counted standing up on the apron. And then take the story from there. So you go back to Gorilla.
No. So basically, like Arda said, the pinfall happened with the shoulders kind of parallel with the ropes, but so close to the ropes where I couldn't see both shoulders if I slid to the side. So just instinctively, I slid outside the ring, landed on my feet outside the ring, and counted on the ring apron, basically. Yeah. So I counted 1, 2, 3, and there were guys looking at me in the ring going, "Oh, he's going to hear it when he gets back." So I get back up to Gorilla, and of course, you know what you don't want to see, the come here finger from the boss. I went, "Uh-oh, here it comes." So he goes, "Why did you slide out of the ring to count?" I said, "Honestly, I couldn't see both shoulders." Good move. And it was like, that's what, you know, in other words,
Hall of Fame mover.
And he goes, and I said, "Good move." And one little pat on the shoulder, and that was it. And I was like, man, I'm going to go celebrate now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I did it. I got approval. Let's go.
But you can see the look in other people, like Mr. Briscoe, who's the guy who's in our ear all the time and stuff like that. Everybody's looking to see, okay, what's Vince going to say to this kid? You know, and all of a sudden I got the thumbs up from the boss. And you can see everybody go, "Oh, true."
So is there an onus on producers now, as opposed to answering directly to Vince? Because we know a lot of the producers in WWE are the ones who kind of structure and put these matches together. So is there a lot more answering in regard to that? Because I think the philosophical differences between AEW and WWE are pretty, I think they're pretty out there. I think AEW, I think a lot of it is on the talent directly. They put it together. And I think it comes across like that. I think everybody's aware of that. Whereas in WWE, everything's still kind of centralized with those 1 or 2 people, and those people who are performing in the ring kind of answer to them. So is it still like that where, it's very, very directly to Vince, or now is there more pressure on there for the producers and former talent that they hire to be able to come in, recognize what they do there, and to be able to lead the talent in the direction ultimately that Vince wants?
It is. My understanding right now is that it is the producer's job to again present to the talent Vince's vision, Vince what he's looking for, and they put something together, and of course they got to get final approval from the boss as well. So whatever they decide upon, it does get back to Vince, and Vince gives a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and then they have to either go with it or come up with something new.
Interesting.
But you look at the list of producers that they have there. There's some, again, on both companies too. You look at AEW and WWE. The producers there of both companies are. You look at the minds there. It's incredible.
You know, it makes me. Yeah. Go ahead, Jimmy. Sorry.
So no, it makes me wonder, because being at WWE and understanding the way they work, you know, the producers have a lot of influence, and the talent there listen to them and listen to their opinion and get their advice. And it almost feels like to me, and I hate to be Captain Negative here, but I see names like Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Billy Gunn, Dustin Rhodes, Jerry Lynn. You look at all the names across the board that over at AEW, and when I see something happen in a match in AEW, and I'm thinking, someone like Arn would have said something about that. Somebody like Billy Gunn, who is an incredible mind, especially when it comes to tag team wrestling, would have said something about that. Do they not listen to these guys? Do they think that their ideas are antiquated and too old school to work in today's new school, where I have to get my twisting, burning 450 hammer Phoenix splash in, as opposed to telling a good story? You know, that's, again, here I am saying, get off my lawn, but you know what I mean? Yeah. It's almost, at times it feels like they're not listening to good advice that they're getting from the talents who have been there and been successful doing what these new talents are trying to succeed at.
Yeah, it's quite about some headbutting there.
It feels like it anyway.
Arda, gotta ask you, did our guy Adnan Burke get a fair shake? Doesn't seem like he did. 7 weeks as the voice of Monday Night Raw, thrown on the day after WrestleMania, the biggest Raw of the year, without really doing much training. What did you think about how that unfolded there?
So his tenure at WWE, I mean, I obviously don't know how it ended. I don't know what kind of conversations were being had there, but from the outside looking in, I know that Adnan is a tremendous broadcaster, and I think that 7 weeks for anyone is really not a fair amount of time to allow someone to develop. I would guess, I remember Sheamus making a comment in the ring
Yeah.
About him. Like, what did he say? Something to the effect of like unprepared announcer or in over his head or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. It wasn't the exact quote, but it was like in the same family of that. And when that's being said on the air, that's definitely the sentiment, whether it's being told to the person or not. That's the sentiment backstage, right? So I would guess that he probably didn't receive as much leeway as maybe somebody who was endemic to wrestling, I would guess. I think Jimmy Smith, who's now in that position, would receive more leeway, learning from the experiment that was Adnan, right? But I don't think this is an indictment on him at all. Adnan is a seasoned broadcaster. He's amazing. He's a quality human being, and he's somebody who knows the assignment and prepares. And I mean, he's one of the busiest people in the industry. He has several jobs, and I don't think that I look. I think that if I would say that, like I said, 7 weeks is a very short amount of time. It really is. Like, you don't if you're letting someone go after that amount of time, then you're not letting them develop into the role. And if it was mutual parting of the ways, like did Adnan not like the job and not like traveling every Monday to Raw, or did WWE feel like they wanted to go a different direction that soon? I mean, that's a very soon amount of time. It's a very short amount of time to want to pivot. So
I mean, Jimmy,
he's not the kind of, like, to me, he's not the kind of guy to rub people the wrong way backstage either.
Not.
That's the other thing. Like, I feel like this was strictly maybe this was just a case of social media was just piling on, and WWE saw that and said, that's unfortunate. That shouldn't be the case, because I bet you that if Adnan was allowed to be in that position for 6 months, I bet you that people would be singing a different tune at the 6 month mark than as opposed to the 7 week mark. So I don't know. I find the situation unfortunate, especially as somebody who also lasted there for a cup of coffee. Like, it's also a very tough gig, but at the end of the day, I don't think this. I'll say this in closing. I don't think this hurts Adnan's reputation as a broadcaster one bit. I think that this will be chalked up as just a failed experiment that neither side is worse for wear, and we won't care.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Adnan didn't pursue the job. They came to him, which you don't really see too often. But Jimmy, what I found bizarre about the situation is when Jimmy Smith takes over, he says, "Oh, I've been preparing for this for 3 months." How could that be? Did they hire Adnan and say, "Hey, Jimmy, just in case, be ready"? Because how is he preparing for 3 months on 1 week notice?
Yeah, I don't know. It's such a different. Things have changed a lot since I've been there, but not a whole lot. And I think maybe the thing with Jimmy Smith, maybe they had him waiting in the wings, so to speak, looking to. I don't want to say give Michael Cole a break from time to time. Go ahead, no harder.
I was just going to say, like, the other thing is he might have also been, like, Michael Cole has often talked about wanting to step away. Like, he's like, Jimmy Smith could have been preparing, but it could have been for a different job.
Right.
That's the other thing. Like, there are many cases of announcers getting reps on the sidelines, let's say at the Performance Center, before they actually make it to Raw, SmackDown, or NXT. So anyhow, sorry, continue, Jimmy.
No, that's exactly it. Because like you said, with the Performance Center and the developmental system and that sort of thing, things have changed a lot since back then. Because when I was there, it was FCW, and it was nowhere near as elaborate as it is today. So like you said, Jimmy Smith could have been preparing for another role. As Arda said, I know Michael Cole has been looking to. He does a lot more behind the scenes than people realize. They think that, oh, Michael Cole just goes out there and does SmackDown. No. Michael Cole is a busy guy. He pretty much produces all the announcers.
And honestly, very underappreciated, because wrestling fans will always point to, and look, like Jim Ross, Gordon Soley, even Gorilla Monsoon. Like a lot of people will say those are my favorite wrestling announcers because they are wrestling announcers, right? Michael Cole didn't start in the world of wrestling. He was a war reporter. Wasn't he in like Bosnia covering, the war in Yugoslavia, before he came to WWE? And like I can tell you firsthand, like he heads up the entire announcing operation. Everybody that's an on-air talent that isn't a wrestler, Michael Cole oversees. And so he has a very, very difficult job. And also people I know that we hear this all the time, but it's not easy. Like it is different than anything that you would encounter in any other on-air gig. Yeah, exactly. Like Vince McMahon, the other producers in your ear, it's very, very different. You learn to listen and talk at the same time, even doing SportsCenter, even doing whatever it is. But WWE is a different animal, and Michael Cole could be the best of all at all time in managing Vince McMahon and the other WWE producers and what's happening in his ear, getting the messages across, getting the storylines across, and playing within the tight sandbox that announcers are in at WWE. Michael Cole could very well be the greatest of all time at doing all of those things, and people aren't appreciating it because they don't understand how difficult it is.
That's why I was very surprised that even Tom Phillips, who you worked with a little bit, Arda, was like, I mean, it seems like Michael Cole groomed him in 10 years, figured out this guy will just be the successor, and then ultimately he's out of there. And then recently, Greg Hamilton, Jimmy, gets let go. That was a bit of a surprise as well. But I guess, as you both know, there's really no security there.
No, absolutely not. And and going back to your earlier discussion when you were talking about contracts and guaranteed contracts. I don't know why this came into my mind. It's different for announcers. Arda could speak to this better than I can. I don't know if they're considered independent contractors or employees or not. Or when you're hired as an announcer.
When I can speak to myself, I was a contractor, but essentially WWE had first right of refusal for my dates when I signed at WWE. Okay. So I wasn't a full-time employee, and actually I was allowed to do gigs outside of WWE. So I did things with NHL Network, and I did live events, a lot of gaming events as well while I was at WWE. So I had that opportunity because my contract wasn't full-time, so to speak.
Right.
And so I, as part of that, I had to do all the things like get my own health insurance and things like that.
Right.
But that's how my contract was. I can only speak to myself, but I would guess that there would be others in the same situation as me if they were getting hired by WWE as an announcer.
Yeah, and I don't know if that situation has changed today, and a little different for people like Jimmy Smith and stuff like that to entice them to come over and that sort of thing. So, again, going back to Arda's point, I think I totally agree. And having worked with Michael Cole in the early days too, very, very much underappreciated and very much undervalued. Let's put it that way too. But maybe not by the company, but by those who don't appreciate his contributions.
Arda, Jimmy, I wanted to ask you quick. It seems like Cole's kind of had a career resurgence here, and I think that's a lot to do with Pat McAfee. Now, when he first started doing dates with the company, he was kind of that cocky, arrogant outsider athlete. He went to NXT. He ended up doing the program with Adam Cole in the Undisputed Era, and he paid his dues. And to tell you the truth, he was quite a natural in the ring. He was one of the best converted athletes I've ever seen step into the ring. And we all know he has a personality. We all know he has a podcast. It seems like that has translated to the booth. I think he is such a breath of fresh air. I think a lot of people didn't necessarily expect this. And I do think a lot of the praise recently that you've seen from Michael Cole, and he's probably deserved this for the better part of 15, 20 years, like you two have alluded to. But I wanted to ask your opinion on Pat McAfee's transition and what that would necessarily do for other athletes who kind of want to make that transition. We saw Gronkowski try to do it, and obviously his heart wasn't totally in it. He went back to football. But it seems like there is now more of a bigger doorway for those athletes who believe they have the charisma to come in and not even necessarily just wrestle. Maybe you could do announcing, maybe you could be a backstage interviewer, right? So I want to ask you too about the job that McAfee has done.
Yep. Well, I'm enjoying Pat McAfee, and that's the main thing, is you want to entertain your audience and you want to get your audience invested, not only in the characters they see in the ring, but those presenting those characters, those talking about the characters. Pat McAfee, yes, people see him dancing on the announce table and stuff like that and go, oh my God, that is so over the top. I can't believe he's doing that. But Pat McAfee, he's having fun. You can see that he's enjoying himself. And when he's enjoying himself, I'm watching him and enjoying the fact that he's enjoying himself. It makes me enjoy the product that much more. And isn't that what this is mainly about? As I alluded to earlier, the twisting, burning, 450 hammer, Phoenix splashes and stuff like that. It's about getting invested in what they're presenting to us. And if I'm feeling that the announcers are naturally having fun,
Boogs.
Yeah, it by osmosis, I'm feeling it too. As Matt Riddle would say, he wants to feel the osmosis from Randy Orton, but I'm feeling it through the television screen. So
I will say this. I think I mean, Pat McAfee's a charismatic guy. He's very successful. He's really good at what he does. To me, the big reason he's succeeding at WWE is because he's allowed to be himself at WWE. That's the big thing. If he was brought in and if he became Pat McLean as opposed to Pat McAfee, and he was put into the meat grinder along with all the other announcers and spit out as a typical prototype WWE announcer, that wouldn't work. And he wouldn't like it. WWE wouldn't get what they wanted in that situation from Pat McAfee. You have to allow a guy like Pat McAfee to be himself, and that's why it's working, because he is different from what WWE has been presenting as far as the announcers are concerned. And him and Michael Cole work well as well. That's the other thing. So, and like, he genuinely seems like he's having fun. And this is a relatively new development in terms of announcers essentially being allowed to play in the WWE sandbox while occupying many other realms, right? Like our former colleague, Jackie Redmond, another example, right, Jimmy? Like, she is part of the NHL on TNT's coverage in America, and she's on NHL Network, and also now doing work with WWE. Like, that kind of arrangement was very rare or even non-existent even a few years ago. Yeah. And that's very appealing now to a lot of talent, because that just gives them another place. Like, I would also say this. I don't think WWE has the same quote unquote stigma that it once had. Like, I'll tell you, when I left WWE, there was a stretch of time where a lot of places wouldn't even talk to me because they're like, oh, you have that WWE stink to you, right? Like, luckily, I landed at MSG Networks and ended up hosting hockey and NBA broadcasts, and it worked out for me. But like, there was a period of time where some places, I'm not going to name them and bury them, but like, they just wouldn't take a conversation with me because they're like, oh, you came from WWE, like, go get some sports experience before you come to us, or whatever the case may be. So I don't think that exists anymore. I think WWE is just part of the culture. Like, people know what it is. People understand what it is. It's not, I mean, whether you like wrestling or not, that's irrelevant. It's just not something that's like, you know what I mean? It's part of America. It's part of the fabric of culture. So it's not as uncool or detrimental to your career to be a part of pro wrestling as part of your career offering anymore. So that's another reason why Pat can excel.
Absolutely. He gets to be himself, and personality is key. Quick exercise for you here, Arda. You know, we're gonna make up this. We're having a traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series matchup here. We're not wrestling though. We're doing announcers versus announcers. Outside of WWE. So you're the team captain of one team, and basically the way you win this match is you got referee Jimmy Korderas here, who's going to judge, you know, which is the more entertaining and funny team. So, you know, your team captain, give me your other 4 announcers here to join you.
So am I doing this strictly based on, like, would they win in a fight?
No
or
fight. It's
like
all about
my entertaining talking, like my team of 5?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Oh man, Rick DiPietro is going to be on my team for sure. He's hilarious. Great. Yeah, he's a comedian. He's a ham. Definitely have him on. John Tortorella, we work very well, so I would add him to the team because he would be like he is unintentionally funny. Like he's just like, first of all, he would be great for analysis. He's like terrific, but also like he hates. You could tell on camera, like whenever we do like fashion segments and things like that, he's just like, can we like talk about hockey, please? Like his reactions are just funny, right? Who else would I add? Man, this is a good question. This is a really, really good question. I would put Renee on the team. Okay. I think that she'd be, she'd probably lead the whole thing. Like she'd probably be a good like anchor for this, but also like she's hilarious. I'm thinking of people that I've worked with, like just like going back and.
How about Stan Fischler?
Maven? Oh man. No, the reason I would not add, well, Stan is amazing. I love listening to his stories, but the problem is that nobody else would have any words edgewise. Like it would just be Stan giving us stories and jokes for like an hour, and like we'd all just be like sitting there listening to Stan. So like
tremendous.
You know what I mean? So those are the names coming on the top of my head. Like I've worked with a lot of great people. I really have. So I've kind of been blessed, to be honest with you, with everyone that I've worked with. So
certainly a great list there.
You left somebody off that I could only imagine. you forgot Cam Stewart.
Okay. I never had a chance to do many shows with Cam. I always watched him from afar. Like, unfortunately, like I never had a chance to actually do shows with him, which kind of stunk. So unfortunate, but hopefully.
You talk about a ball of energy.
Oh, he's amazing. I never had a chance to work with him. Sorry, I thought this was like people that I had worked with.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Could be whatever you interpret it, but
now notice that I didn't put Jimmy on the list.
Well, Jimmy's the referee.
Jimmy's the referee.
Jimmy is far away down.
Oh my goodness.
On the list here, okay? Just saying. Unbelievable.
Arda doesn't want to put Jimmy over. Wow.
No. Absolutely not.
Don't make me.
Actually, you know what I would do? I'd also have a separate list of all of the. Now, we all know that Kyle Edwards belongs in the WWE Hall of Fame. It's going to happen eventually, whether it's by default because they have no one else left to induct, or because of my unbelievable achievements, both athletic and non-athletic, in WWE. Kyle Edwards is going in the Hall of Fame. But I would like to create a super team of like other announcers that belong in the WWE Hall of Fame. So Kyle Edwards, Charlie Min, Craig DeGeorge.
Oh, Craig DeGeorge.
Who else should I
Lord
add
Alfred Hayes.
Lord Alfred. No, I'm talking about people who had like a cup of coffee that barely scratched the surface. Charlie Min, Stephanie Wyand,
Tony Luftman.
Tony Luftman. Tony Dawson.
Goodness.
Let's throw him in there. NHL Network connection. Like we're gonna make a super team of the cup of coffee announcers. And Adnan too. Adnan's gonna lead the charge.
There you go.
We're all coming together, and we're gonna storm Titan Towers in Stamford, Connecticut. We're gonna have a camera, and we're all just gonna charge into Vince's office, and we're gonna demand that all five of us, we're gonna make our like a cup of coffee wing of the WWE Hall of Fame, where we belong, enshrined in the hallowed halls. Yes. Well, in all seriousness, I know that I was joking there, but Jimmy, I'm just going to put this out there. Jimmy belongs actually in the WWE Hall of Fame.
100%.
Like eventually, there's going to come a time where referees are inducted into the Hall of Fame for their contributions. And yes, there might be some referees that you think of first. The Hebners, Timmy White, Joey Morella would be a great first induction, actually.
Yeah.
But 1000% Jimmy Korderas belongs in the WWE Hall of Fame, and I want to put it out there that this will actually happen at some point. Now, my question to you, Jimmy, is will you thank me in your speech like you failed to do at the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame?
Inducting him, so we don't have a choice, probably.
No, wow.
There was a Hall of Fame ceremony in New England where Jimmy Korderas got inducted into the New England Hall of Fame, and I drove there. It was like in Providence. It was like a 2-hour drive for me to get there, and I was in the audience with his wife, sitting with Jim Cornette, who was in front of us, and he thought it was hilarious that he was getting inducted into a New England Hall of Fame. He's like, "Why am I here?" But Jimmy gets on stage and gives us a terrific tearjerker of a 20-minute speech. And guess which name was left off of the list, boys? Take a wild guess.
Kyle Edwards.
Can you believe this?
I will never live that down. I have been hearing
How many gyros have we eaten, Jimmy? How many blocks of feta cheese?
I know. See, like I said, I froze. I apologize, my friend. You know, like I said, too many ref bumps over the years, but yes, you should have been mentioned in that speech. And
that was my saddest moment. I shed a tear. Basically, I had Tell Me a Lie in my head. Remember that Shawn Michaels video? Like, it was playing on loop in my head, and I had a little tear. Tell me a lie and say that you won't go. And then the tear just like down the streak, down the face. And then I just get but in all seriousness, Jimmy Korderas, WWE Hall of Fame. It's going to happen one day. You'll see.
It's going to be the most stupendous WrestleMania ever in Dallas this year, as they're saying. So perhaps Jimmy goes in Dallas. I don't know. We'll have to
nobody said anything yet. So anyway, but I appreciate.
Do they still have a 24/7 championship?
Oh, Reggie's tremendous.
Yes.
Byron Saxton was champion this past Monday.
Byron.
Yeah.
Can I tell
Corey
you?
Graves too.
Yeah.
And Corey.
Yeah, they did a segment with the two of them.
Corey, but let's see that story.
So I like Graves a lot. He's a good dude. I hung out with him a lot. He's probably the guy I hung out with the most at WWE. I hope he gets to wrestle again. If he actually wants to wrestle again, I know that he's had health issues, and that's why he had to transition to an announcer. That was several years ago. I hope that his health has gotten to a point where he can actually get into the ring again. If that's something he wants to do, I hope that happens for him. Byron is good vibes. So I was having a tough time at NXT one day, and I was just like, man, like things aren't going my way. Like, this is rough. That was kind of like the start of the decline and whatever. And Byron was like, look, man, like in these kind of situations, you just have to do things to pop yourself. So we were in this auditorium, and we were sitting at the very top of the auditorium. This is the NXT auditorium that you've seen in like the documentaries and stuff. So Byron, just to make me laugh, he started at the top, and then he looks at me and he winks and he goes, watch this. And he like takes a bump on the stairs and rolls down the stairs all the way down from the top of the stairs, all the way down to the stage. And all the NXT wrestlers are looking at him like, what the hell are you doing, man? And he's just like exaggerating, like, oh no, and he's like rolling down the stairs. And then he gets up, and then he looks at everyone, and then he just bows. And then he got an ovation. It was like the dumbest thing. And then he just gets up and he bows. And then everyone started clapping. And then he comes up to me. He's like, see, you just got to pop yourself. And I'm like, I guess that makes a lot of sense.
I like that. Byron, I always thought was going to be a great wrestler from his NXT days, but I think he's one of the best color guys there is.
He's good vibes. He's a very he's good. He's a good vibes guy. Like, he's very like optimistic, and he's
he loves the New Day, puts them over extremely well. So all right, so we're gonna get you guys out of here momentarily. Gotta just ask two quick Survivor Series questions here. I know Joe has been dying to get them out there, of course. But Jimmy, I gotta ask you, how great was Charlotte's promo last Friday? I mean, the whole crowd was getting into it, and she's supposed to be heel. Becky is also heel, but everyone says Becky's more popular. But she's getting everybody to say Becky. I mean, that was great, and I personally think that this match, which we'll be in the building for, Joe, should be the main event. I think there's more intrigue here, in my opinion, here than Big E versus Roman Reigns, but we'll see what happens. Every time these two get in a fight together, it's big time.
No, it's very interesting. You got an incredible point that maybe this was the one that should close out the show, but that all depends on what happens with Big E and Roman and the direction they're going. Is there going to be a Brock appearance in that match? But getting back to Charlotte and Becky, again, what's the biggest appeal about this match is it feels real. It's got people questioning. Those people out there who think they know, they're on the inside. We read all the sheets. We know what's going on. There's legit heat between these two. Is there? Because if it isn't, this is the greatest work of all time, because they've not only worked the wrestling audience, they've worked the people who write about it, the people and even if there is legit heat, you can still do business together. You think that everybody that's worked together over the years in the wrestling business has liked each other? If I can make money in good business with this person that I don't like or that I don't get along with anymore, because apparently they were friends.
That's
yeah. But I think that's the biggest appeal from this is, and I'm going to compare it to what we saw in AEW with Punk and Eddie Kingston. Again, people,
that was great.
People felt the realism in it. People felt those shots back and forth, especially you talk about talking someone into the building. That's what this match is doing, just like that match did for me.
Yeah, it feels real, and it's the only match I'm looking forward to. I don't like that they're doing Raw versus SmackDown about 3 weeks after the draft. I don't care. I'm dying to see Brock Lesnar. I think Jimmy. I think he's going to just show up and win the Royal Rumble, and we're going to see Lesnar versus Roman Reigns at Dallas night 2 to close out WrestleMania.
Rock?
No. Well, I don't know. Maybe is it next year rumored to be the following year rumored to be in LA?
Yeah, it'll be. It's confirmed LA. So
okay, so that's
Reigns.
So it depending if you can build. Roman has been on fire for a long time now, and again you feel the realism coming out of him. You start questioning yourself. You say, Roman's a good dude. But then you see him on TV and you go, this feels like that side of him that he wants to let out. You know what I mean? It feels, I don't want to say it feels real, but you buy into him completely. There's that sense of disbelief when you watch Roman, and I think that's what's missing with a lot of talent today. When you see them putting on an act, playing a character as opposed to being the character. Roman is being that character. And if they could build him up for another year to get to LA with The Rock, that's where it could be magic.
I think Dallas. You got 2 nights. What I would do, I do Reigns versus Lesnar on one of the nights, close it out, and then what you got to do is, I think at some point in the next month or so here, Becky needs to drop the title on Raw. She needs to win the Royal Rumble, and then when Bayley comes back, we got Bayley, Sasha, Charlotte, and Becky all on SmackDown, closing out the other night of WrestleMania for the women's title.
Yeah. Well, you've laid out a good. Hey, somebody give that man the pencil. because I hear all these rumors out there. People are talking. Oh, well, what if you want the women to main event at least one of the 2 nights, if not the first night, the second night. I've heard the name Ronda Rousey thrown out there as well.
Ronda come out after the match. I mean, that'd be tremendous.
Yeah. I know people out there claim, oh, why bring Ronda Rousey back? She's not a full-timer, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, people forget it's a business. The wrestling industry is referred to as the business. And when you talk business, it's about making money. Bottom line.
Arda, Jimmy, we thank you too. We got DX back together. It was a lot of fun. My final question is, in the spirit of Survivor Series, and Nick mentioned before that him and I were at the MSG show in 2011. So my personal favorite moment was watching my favorite wrestler growing up, The Rock, return to the ring at Survivor Series, teaming with Cena. That atmosphere was electric in the Garden. That was one of the last shows that they ran at the Garden for a really, really long time. But I want to ask you two in particular, your personal favorite Survivor Series moment.
Wow. Man. I wish
pick a favorite. Yeah.
It's hard to pick a favorite because I'm trying to think of it from 2 points of view, a fan's point of view, and also as someone who's been a part of several Survivor Series. I think for me, my favorite Survivor Series moment for me from a personal standpoint is being a part of the very first Survivor Series. And somebody had sent me a picture recently of me standing in the ring face to face with Hogan, separating Hogan and Andre the Giant from the very first Survivor Series with Joey Morella there. Yeah. And I think back to that and I go, man, I've been blessed. over the years to I think back to stuff like that. That was my 1987. That was my first year of refereeing. I had began refereeing in February of that year. And then in November of that year, I'm at the very first Survivor Series. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So when I think back, I don't know what beats a moment like that from a fan's point, as a fan and as a person who has been a part of several of them. So tough.
For me, like I mean, as a fan, obviously, like I never had a chance to go to a Survivor Series while I was at WWE. I think it was only one or two anyway. I would say that there was the one Survivor Series that had Ted DiBiase and Bret Hart on opposite sides. I think it was 1990 or 91. And they ended up having like a full match. Like they were like the last two. And then it was almost like a 10-minute or 12-minute match that they had at the end of it. So I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun to watch. So it's just something that stuck with me. I don't know if I would call it a favorite memory, but they always, I mean, Bret and DiBiase had great matches anyway, but it was cool that they, ended Survivor Series like that.
Yeah.
And I guess that one year that Mr. Perfect won his Survivor Series match, because I was a big Mr. Perfect fan. I think it was 89 or something like that. So I guess I would put those in there. Amazing. And of course, who can forget The Undertaker in 93 with his jacket and the American flag and his in his jacket.
Yeah, I'm an Undertaker guy, so you got me there too as well. And just to throw it out there, you talked about DiBiase, and I'm going to be get off my lawn guy one more time when you talk about DiBiase versus Bret Hart. How many Canadian destroyers and super kicks and other stuff did you see from those guys?
Not much.
And people loved it. It was so good. Don't get me wrong. Old school and new school could coexist. It just that's what it needs to do, is coexist, as opposed to having to be one or the other.
Yeah. Listen, guys, it's been great. Arda, I think the next time that WWE is in Toronto, I'll call up Adnan.
Yep.
We'll call off Miz, and we should set up a cup of coffee autograph signing at the local Tim Hortons.
I agree. And I think that the lineup will be 2 kilometers long. And
that's right.
It's going to be outstanding. Yeah. And honestly, get your tickets now, because they're going to sell out really fast.
Yeah.
Since you brought it up, they are coming to Toronto on the 29th of December. And there
you go.
I will say, I do know Adnan Burke's schedule. He actually will be in Toronto. So, Arda, we'll see if we can move some things around. The hockey.
All right, let's go. Let's set up an autograph sign.
Get a Tim Hortons. The fans will be there.
Awesome.
Good. All right, guys, it's been a pleasure as always, and that's going to do it here for this episode of You Know I'm Right. So far, our very special guests. Number 1, who entered the 2-time guest club, Arda Öcal, and number 2, our guest Jimmy, who entered the exclusive 3-time guest club, Jimmy Korderas, of course. And for my co-host Joe Calabrese, I am Nick Durst, and this has been You Know I'm Right.